This episode is sponsored by Gear 7, a full-service Nashville production company founded by Belmont alum Kirk Slawick. Visit gear7.tv to learn more.
Welcome to the What If podcast. We're sharing an ever-growing collection of stories from the Belmont entrepreneur community to inspire you to start and keep going. I'm your host, Elizabeth Gortmaker. Here we go. Well, hey, Harry, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you, Elizabeth?
I'm good. I'm so glad you're on the podcast today. You have such an incredible story to share. And you are one of those Belmont alums who just keeps giving back, keeps being involved. I mean, you are like Mr. Belmont, and with everything you're doing with Studio Bank, it's just such an amazing gift to Nashville. So
Wow.
I'm really excited to share this story today.
Thank you. No, I've been given so much, and it's a pleasure to give a little bit back every now and then. So I'm happy to be here.
Yeah. Well, let's go back to the beginning. You came to Belmont twice, right? You're one of those undergrad and grad school alums, correct?
Yeah, so I came, my freshman year was 2000, and had an undergraduate experience, graduated in 2004, then came back in 2008 again. So I'm a repeat customer. Yeah.
So am I. I did
Nice.
undergrad, left, came back for grad school, left, and now I'm here. So this is so true for you too. The slogan of Belmont, from here to anywhere.
Yeah.
For us, man, it's from here to right back to here.
To here again. Yes.
Yes,
exactly
totally.
Right. Yeah.
And then when was Studio Bank founded?
Yeah, so we opened our doors June 14th of 2018. So we celebrated 4 years recently. But the process started, for me and Aaron Dorn, the CEO, my partner, our first meeting was 6.5 years ago. So it takes a while to start a bank. It's been an incredible journey.
Yeah. Okay. Tell us about Studio Bank, because your approach is really unique. The language that you guys use on your website and how you describe your bank and what you do, it's very unique in the banking world. And what I mean by that is that it's a boutique bank. You've got to tell us what that means. But and all of your clients are members, and you say on your website that you really exist for creatives and to empower creativity. So tell us a little bit about
I love it. And you've
Studio
done your
Bank.
research. That's right. So,
Number
we
one
do
fan over here.
yeah, exactly. Studio is a boutique bank. And I love, of course, I love how we've characterized ourselves and distinguished ourselves in the market. But when you think about boutique, it is small, it's approachable and personalized. But a boutique, the experience is tailor-made to the individual that we're serving. And so I think that it calls forth this position of partnership from our bankers. Like, how do we listen to our client's story long enough to figure out exactly the solution that fits for them? And, I think that the membership approach to our bank is something that we're really proud of. Community banks, a bank that's locally headquartered in a community, has all these relationships with clients. And occasionally, a banker who is worth their salt will say, this client needs to know this other client, and foster those types of connections and introductions. We wanted our clients to feel like they were a part of a community. And not only do we do the one-off, introductions, and our bankers are natural connectors, but Elizabeth, we host a ton of events at Studio, and opportunities to gather people so that those accidental, in entrepreneurship, social capital is as meaningful sometimes as the financial resources that we provide. And if we can create those instances where people are meeting, and maybe some magic happens because they met at a Studio Bank event, that's a way for us to add value beyond checking accounts and and loans. And so we take that work really, really seriously. We think that you can deliver technology and a compelling digital experience, but nothing replaces human connection. And so I think being a boutique bank that's locally headquartered and connected and leveraging those connections for the benefit of our clients is the magic of Studio Bank.
And what a cool space. It is not a banky feeling space. I mean, it's this
No,
large, beautiful building with so
thank
much
you.
artwork. It really encourages that creativity and that relational
Yeah,
feel.
so you can't say your purpose as a bank is to empower creators and then not have a creative space, right? And so we wanted our space to foster creativity. We also wanted, the setup of our offices to feel more like a living room than the intimidating spaces that our industry traditionally have built. Banking can be, for a lot of folks, an intimidating situation. And so we wanted to break down those barriers. It's funny, we want clients to open up their lives and stories, but then we create these glass walls that separate bankers from clients and big, heavy mahogany desks and all this stuff. We're like, no, this is a different approach. The music's a little bit louder. We brew coffee from Nashville coffee shops. It's a cool experience.
So you've alluded a little bit to the why, and some of the purpose behind what you guys are doing. Let's step back to the beginning and what was happening or really what was your what if moment? I mean, why did you guys say Nashville needs this or we're going to do this?
Yeah.
Take us back to the beginning of Studio Bank.
Yeah. So, why did Nashville need a 65th bank in the market? Is the question, right? So, I worked for a bank, Avenue Bank, that was founded in 2007 in Nashville, and it intentionally served the sectors that were important to Nashville. So, music, arts and entertainment, nonprofit and education, commercial real estate, healthcare. Like they had bankers with deep expertise to partner with folks in those industries. That bank sold in 2016, and I we saw an opportunity to retain local banking in a market that historically has supported local banks for sure. But we also lost this approach to serving verticals, industry sectors with bankers that have deep expertise in those sectors. And then, in terms of what if, Aaron and I spent about 6 months just dreaming and, planning and visioning. And we said, what if the next Nashville bank truly reflected the diversity, the energy, the creativity of what makes Nashville special? And what if a bank is also a force for good in its community and seeks to make meaningful impact in the geographic location that it's placed? And what if the community owned the bank? Like we started to ask all these what ifs. And so the major barrier to starting a bank is capital and the regulatory process of getting an application approved by the FDIC. And so we knew we needed to raise a ton of money. And we said, what if we raise that from a large base of investors at small amounts? And so our bank has 525 plus investors that are community members. They're small business owners, they're creatives, they're just people who wanted to be a part of owning a piece of Nashville's next bank. And so we knew that if we were going to start the 65th bank in town, it needed to look and feel very different. And I'm super proud to say, like 4 years in, we're about the 25th largest bank in the market now, coming in at the bottom at 65. So I think the community was ready for Studio.
Absolutely. So 4 years in, how large is your bank?
Yes. So the initial capital raise was $46 million in capital. We had a small seed round as well. Today, total assets are around 730 million. Um, that's really mind blowing when I say it out loud, Elizabeth. But yeah, I mean, we're a $700 million bank after 4 years, about 84 employees today.
Okay,
And we
that's
just
incredible.
opened our second location. So, proving out the technology model, we've grown a bank to $700 million, mostly out of one location.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's incredible, and congrats
yeah.
on the second location.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
you've grown, I mean, okay, so you've got 85 employees, you said?
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
you've grown your staff by quite a bit in the last couple of years.
Yes. So pre-pandemic, we were right around 50. And so, we had a gathering maybe a month ago now of all the employees. And it was the first time we were all together since COVID. And there are literally employees that I met for the first time at that employee event, because we onboarded so many folks during the pandemic where we're still hybrid. Most of our team is still working remote. So yeah, tremendous amount of growth during a crazy, crazy time. Yeah.
Yeah. So you originally graduated Belmont in 2004. You came back
hmm
for grad school and finished in 2010. And
hmm
then Studio Bank was 2018. What were you doing in those years between 2004 and 2018?
Yeah. So when I graduated from Belmont undergrad, 2004, I joined SunTrust Bank, which is now Truist, and was an intern all through Belmont at SunTrust. And so I joined them full time, was there from 2004 to 2008. And I was hired in 2008 by a client of mine, Big Brothers Big Sisters,
Yeah.
which is a one-to-one youth mentoring agency. I was their banker, and they were experiencing a period of high growth and wanted someone to fill a newly created finance and operations role. So I left banking in 2008, which in hindsight was like the perfect time to leave banking because there was something called the Great Recession that banks were, a part of creating. And so the credit market kind of collapsed. And I missed that period while I was at Big Brothers Big Sisters. And for me, that was an interesting opportunity. As a banker, very few of us ever have the opportunity to operate an entity, make payroll every 2 weeks, negotiate benefits for clients. I was IT, facilities management, finance. I wore a lot of hats.
Everything. Yeah.
And I call that my sabbatical. I was there for 3 years. And after 3 years, joined Avenue Bank in 2011. At Avenue, I was the director of nonprofit banking and community investment, and was there until the end of Avenue, and then that brings us to Studio.
Yeah. So when you guys were thinking about what if we go create our own bank? What if we can create something different in Nashville that doesn't exist? We want to do banking differently. What was going on in your personal life during that time? What was, is this something were you a very risk averse person? Did this feel just like a natural fit? Let's go. Or did you have
Yeah,
any
yeah,
trepidation?
yeah. Of course. So my youngest, I have three kids, 10, 9, and 6. So my youngest was 3 months old. Um, when when I came home and my wife's on maternity leave, and I say, I think I'm gonna quit and start a
No.
bank. And no, I'm not a risk taker. I'm a banker. I'm an
Yeah.
underwriter. Our job literally is to mitigate risk,
Mitigate
right?
risk.
Yes.
100%. Yes.
And so for me, it was an exercise of underwriting and understanding the risk and what are the mitigants. And so, I know I need to raise a ton of capital. Are we positioned well to take that on? We know that there's an intense regulatory process. The benefit we had was that our CEO, Aaron Dorn, was part of Avenue Bank from the beginning. and had an experience of starting a bank. So our partnership was critical to mitigating the risk. And once we had the vision, kind of passing that brief deck around to business owners and leaders in town and getting their feedback. And I wanted to know all the things. You're crazy, you're too young, like tell me now before we get too deep. And we were met with support, resounding support. And not only yes, this is the right time, yes, you all are the right folks to do it, there's a market here, but how can I support? Can I invest? We had one of our earliest investors commit to capital before we had projections or a true business plan. And so their support was a big part of mitigating or de-risking the opportunity as well. So by the time I told my wife, I felt like this might happen. And then at the end of the day, there were 64 other banks. At least one of them, Elizabeth, may give me a chance if we take this path and it didn't work out. But I think it worked out. I think it's working out.
What has Chandra's role been in all of this? Being the wife of an entrepreneur is an interesting life,
It is. She's wonderful. You have to have a partner first that believes what you believe, right? And because none of it's tangible. And so she believed that if this is something that I want to do, it can happen. Aaron and I took our wives to dinner together early on because it was really important for our partners to join us on the journey. And it is emotional. I mean, there are people that I couldn't imagine us doing this without, who, for whatever reason, couldn't be a part, and that was hard. The process of getting through the regulatory application phase took a lot longer, and there were literally regulators on our team who had not, reviewed many new bank applications. We were only one of 8 applications in the queue nationwide for a new bank. So there were hard things that that partnership and support from the spouse was really meaningful. And the kids too, they just kept me grounded. They were so young. Aaron and I joke because his kids are a little bit older and they were asking, how's the capital raise? And I come home and my kids are just like, are we watching Bubble Guppies or?
Is it Bluey or Bubble Guppies? Which one is
Okay.
it?
So that was really, really great because they had no clue how chaotic,
Yeah.
dad's was at the time. Yeah.
Yes, kids are so wonderful at grounding you.
Yes. Keeping you present.
Yeah, a lot of young entrepreneurs, it's like, no, you can't go that route because my work as an entrepreneur is 24/7. It demands my whole life. But in many ways, having a family, having kids and people around you outside of your entrepreneurial bubble really grounds you and helps give you a fresh perspective when you come back into work.
Yeah. And, there was another thing that was going on at the time, and it wasn't with me personally, but in terms of social context, there was the shooting of Philando Castile, which was one of the first unarmed Black male shootings that caused community outrage. And I remember reading an article of a Black-owned bank in Atlanta who over a weekend opened like 8,000 accounts because folks were trying to figure out, how do we support systems and institutions that help to break down some of these historical barriers and things. And so, I looked around at Nashville, honestly, and said, our city could use a different representation of leadership in the financial services industry. And it was time, that we build at every level, investors, executives, board members, this intentional diversity into who we are. And I am 100% convinced that our success in part is due to the diversity that we have on our team. Everybody seems like, this is a place that was created for them because they have a sense of belonging.
This episode is sponsored by Gear 7, a full-service Nashville production company founded by Belmont alum Kirk Slawick. Focused on cutting-edge production, Gear 7 creates captivating commercials, branded content, and music videos across the nation. Trusted by brands such as Apple Music and Mitsubishi, they're always ready for the next creative challenge. Visit gear7.tv to learn more.
That's awesome. Yeah, tell me a bit about what that diversity means for your company and for your team.
It's a critical success factor. We have, like many organizations, a purpose. You mentioned, ours is empowering creators. We have a mission, we have values and vision. But in addition to those things, we have principles that we feel are critical to success. And diversity is absolutely one of those. I think that decision making is richer. There is power in coalition building, especially for an organization like a bank where there is a mass consumer element, to who we're serving. But I wanted to also be an authentic partner to Nashville, and Nashville is trending younger. It's trending more diverse. And so it didn't seem authentic or, aligned with where this city is going to create a bank that looked and felt like everyone else. And so we wanted to reflect the community of Nashville and feel like we will be a better partner if we did. So that was fun. It took longer in terms of raising capital because we wanted to pitch a big tent and invite lots of folks underneath, but I think it was worth the time and effort.
Yeah. So, Nashville really is a very unique city, and we're really known as Music City. I think a lot of people think of Nashville, they think of cowboy boots and country music. And of course, the music industry is massive, but
Right,
Nashville
right.
also has a very thriving food scene and an art scene, and fashion is a huge industry here, and just small business. It's very entrepreneurial and it's very friendly to entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
And that's, obviously a core purpose for you guys. But what are some of the trends or some of the things that you see happening in Nashville today in 2022 that
Yeah.
set us apart from other cities? Or, you guys are a community bank, so you're very focused on this community in Nashville. And what are some of the things that you see happening in the entrepreneurial or the small business landscape in our city?
Yeah. So I would say it's evolving. Nashville historically, and you mentioned this, has been known for its music industry, healthcare as well. But you're exactly right. We're seeing entrepreneurs being attracted to this market in the tech space, service industry, fashion, film. Like, it is expanding, and I think that the marketing that the city did in the 90s and early 2000s in terms of leveraging the Music City brand has made the city an attractive, city for a lot of folks. And the fundamentals are strong. The economy is diverse. People are moving here, 100 folks a day. And they're finding jobs that are paying decent wage. So I think that a lot of companies want to be a part of the strong economic fundamentals that this city is experiencing right now. And it is different from other MSAs. I think that's built on, and I'm a fifth generation Nashvilleian, so I have the benefit of knowing Nashville before it was the It City.
Wow.
But what has always been so Nashville is this relationship orientation. Like, I tell people, you can almost pick up the business journal or newspaper, find a story of an interesting business person or entrepreneur, email them, and probably get a coffee meeting. Like, it is a fairly open city, and we welcome transplants from California, New York, Chicago, and want to help them get connected. Like, what board are you serving on? What church do you go to? Like, how do we get folks who have chosen Nashville to be home contributing as early as possible? I think that's part of our culture. And so for us at Studio, that's why we felt like this membership approach and being connectors to folks who've been here forever and who moved here last month, is a model that could work in terms of a bank that serves Nashville uniquely.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
on the flip side, so, there's all this growth. Nashville's the it city. There's so many amazing cool things happening.
We don't have any challenges.
We are so having challenges. I mean, we're still kind of
Yeah.
coming off of COVID, and inflation's crazy, and interest rates.
Yes.
And it still is a very tricky landscape for small business owners.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
what advice do you have for those small business owners, young entrepreneurs, and how is Studio Bank uniquely empowering and
Yeah.
serving those people in this
Fantastic
crazy world?
question. It is a crazy world. I don't know if you read The Tale of Two Cities in school, but I feel like we're living it right
Yes.
now. It's the best of times and the worst
The
of
worst of
times.
times. Yeah.
And this country is built on small business and entrepreneurship. There are two paths to economic mobility that's been typical for years, and that's home ownership and being able to, leverage equity, and entrepreneurship, starting a business and making a living for yourself. Um, Home ownership in Nashville is becoming harder and harder because of the affordability issue. And COVID, was extremely disruptive to a lot of small businesses. At Studio, we were positioned well going into the pandemic because our model is such that every single client has a banker to walk life with. We don't have tellers, we have bankers, and every client has a point of contact. And so when you're going through a situation like a global pandemic, we were reaching out to every client of ours and asking, what do you need? How can we help? When the Paycheck Protection Program came out, our tiny bank that was 18 months old, we did, I think, almost 40 million total in PPP loans, which for a bank our size, who was not an SBA lender before, was critical. But we knew that partnership with small businesses and helping them access capital and navigate this tough time would be critically important. Um, yeah, and in terms of staying connected to the city and understanding what its needs are and wanting to be a corporate citizen, not just a company in a city. I've had consistent conversations with the mayor's office on affordability, as well as the recent funding for small businesses that was announced recently. I think $18 million fund for small businesses. But positioning ourselves like we don't have all the answers ourselves, but maybe collectively we can do some creative things. And we have two loan programs in particular for small businesses to support founders of color that we've helped. Our first grantee actually was a Belmont alum, Energy Juice and Yoga. Was
Yes,
one of our first.
Naila.
Yes,
Yeah.
Naila.
Yeah.
Um, and that came
Okay,
out of
big
an
shout out.
article.
We're just gonna pause and shout out to Naila
Yes,
with energy, juice, and yoga.
absolutely.
Yes,
Yes.
she's over kind of the north side of town, and she's
Buchanan
awesome.
Arts District, yes. And so
Yeah.
when she had the idea to, have brick and mortar, we, through a partnership with the Community Foundation, formed a loan program to support small businesses and reached out to her and said, we can help. And
That's
she's
awesome.
open. Yeah.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's all delicious. So
It is
go check
delicious.
it out. I'll link it in the show notes for
There
everybody
you
who's
go.
listening. Yes, go check
All
it
roads
out.
lead back to Belmont is
Yeah.
basically what I'm
It's
saying.
it's
Yeah.
so true. Well, so how do you guys define success? A lot of times people think banking, money, it's just dollars. It's just, you can jump to the worst side of that. That is, I know that's not what drives you guys, but I would love to hear from you.
No.
What does success look like?
Yeah. I mean, so no money, no mission, right?
Yeah.
We are a for-profit organization. We do need to, make money, but it's about the impact for us. And so we know that we are leveraging dollars that are deposited in our bank, and pouring those dollars right back into our community through our lending. And, if we are successful, then we are a key component to not only the capital deployment, but the economic development and prosperity of Nashville. And I can't think of a more important time to make sure we get as much of that right as right now. There are peer cities that experienced high growth and now have, record breaking homelessness. I, as a citizen and a native, would hate to not share prosperity with as many Nashvillians as possible. And so that's our motivation for success. And we're not building it to sell. A lot of investors early on would ask us that. And I'm like, I've got 20 years to work somewhere. I'd much rather it be Studio Bank. And so that early profitability and earning our independence long term is really, really important to us, because that's how we're going to make the long term impact that we're seeking to make in Nashville. Yeah. So bank with us. That's how we're successful. You choose to bank locally and leverage your checking account dollars to pour right back into the community you've called home.
Yeah. I love the analogy. Another alum gave me this analogy a few years ago, but entrepreneurship as buoyancy, and as one
Mm,
is raised, all of them, it's not a
yeah,
competitive thing, but instead it can
yeah,
be this world where as one is raised, all are raised. And I think Studio
absolutely.
Bank is such a perfect example of that, because your success drives the success of so many people around the
Absolutely.
community. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm curious about you, Harry. You're a major leader. I mean, you are, besides Studio Bank, like so much. You're very involved with Belmont, and so many leadership roles on campus. You're very involved in the Nashville city. I know you're passionate about nonprofits and education and supporting, and you're leading so many different areas in Nashville. But you're also like one of the most humble people. And I know you probably hate this. I can tell you're like, I don't like this question,
I
because
know, I know.
you're so humble. But I would just love to hear, that humble leadership model, and
Hmm.
really
Hmm.
kind of your formative years. Who was your role model? And today, who's your role model?
Hmm.
What
Oh,
what do
wow.
you value when it comes to being a leader? What really makes you tick? And what are you, what kind of drives you a little bit? That question that was a question with a lot of different questions in it. So
No, thank you for the question, for the questions, right? Um, no, I think so. A part of it is because of how I was raised, and in terms of role models, like, my first role models were my parents. My mom was a public school teacher here in Nashville for 35 years. She spent 27 years at the same school teaching sixth grade English.
oh, wow.
My dad worked for the city for MDHA, which is our housing authority, and not on the development side, but on the program side. So he was in social services, and his role was really to help single women in our housing developments, low income housing developments, find work and childcare. And then when he retired from Metro, he became a pastor. And so, service, both my mom and dad were examples of that. And, that's what our family did for fun. We were always somewhere serving a meal or sorting goods, or, I was going to the parent teacher store and buying whole book sets. And I'm like, Mom, why do you need 20 of the same novel? And she was saying, because some of my kids, their families can't afford the novels. And so I had that example early on. And, I've continued to believe that service is the rent that I pay, for occupying the space in my community. And so, as much as I can give back, that's just what I believe I should be doing. I've had to learn, Elizabeth, how to do that best, because Nashville is a community that if you start to raise your hand, um, you will have every opportunity to serve that you want, right? And I can't do all the things. And so I learned in my mid 20s maybe that public education in particular is a passion of mine. And those activities give me energy while I do them. And so if I'm attending the board meeting of the Nashville Public Education Foundation, I'm not drained at the end of the meeting. Like, I get home and my kids still get an energized dad because I'm leaning into something I'm passionate about. I had to quit some things that are great missions, right? But not something that I'm passionate about. So yeah, I encourage people, to figure out ways to make a difference in your community. It inspires that type of leadership in the next generation. And so I have a picture of my son when he was 4 years old carrying a food box into an apartment building when we were delivering meals during Thanksgiving. And I'm like, here it is, the next generation of Allens carrying food boxes. But yes, it matters. It matters.
Yeah, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
Speaking of education, you've been very involved with Belmont, and Belmont has been in a huge transitional phase, or I guess
Mhm.
better, a growth phase. We
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
rapidly
Yeah.
growing and expanding. We have our new president, our new strategic pathways. We're building a brand new building that will open in 2023. That's going to be a ginormous resource for entrepreneurship and innovation and all of these types of conversations and all of these future alums or community partners to be in that space, to do more and do bigger things. I would love to hear from you because I know you're in all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
A
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of the changes at Belmont. So I would just love to hear some of your general thoughts on the future of entrepreneurship, the future of education at Belmont, and the future of innovation and where we're going.
Yeah, no, and so for the benefit of the audience, I'm on the trustee board at Belmont, and that's one of the service opportunities I'm most grateful for, because Belmont's given so much to me. I think that Belmont has always been a school that has leaned into an entrepreneurial mindset and been innovative. And I think the change in leadership has just accelerated
Yeah.
that tremendously, right? So I'm super excited about Belmont's opportunity to become a catalyst for entrepreneurship in Nashville, with the new space and building, with the data collaborative. Um, and it's kind of like this campus with doors wide open. Like,
Yeah.
Belmont seems to be inviting the community and businesses and city and organizations in to figure out how can we be a part of solving some of these issues we've talked about together. And I think that is the future of higher education. It's experiential learning. It is um, making sure students can connect the learning and theory to application and work as quickly as possible, because our attention spans are short and our expectations for growth are high, right? And so I think this generation needs to see purpose in their work and the ability to make a difference quickly. And so um, that challenges the status quo of teaching, and kind of digging into research and theory without connecting dots for students on how those things are applied in the real world. And Belmont seems to be interested in figuring that out.
Yeah, for sure. This is a question I ask everybody on this podcast, but just general advice for young entrepreneurs. Young meaning people who are just starting out. Maybe they have an idea, they haven't
Yep.
launched yet, or they're starting where you were in 2016, the couple years leading up to 2018. What advice do you have for people in that position?
Yeah. So, um, dreaming is a powerful thing, and we at Studio. So our purpose of empowering creators, we say creators intentionally, not creatives, because that's what's unique about humanity is this ability to dream up something. Whether you're a healthcare professional or a mom or dad, like dreaming up a better way of life for your family, we're the only things on this planet that can dream up something and go make it happen. And so entrepreneurship and creating businesses is like core to who we are as humans. So lean into that. You're just being, an actualized human being when you have this notion of dreaming up something and making it real. But don't let it freak you out, because entrepreneurship can be scary and lonely. And there are 1,200 steps. Just take one. Just take the first one. If that seems to go well, take another one. And then before you know it, you're 10 steps in and you're probably starting a business. And some of those early steps mean, talking to others, finding mentors, getting response to the ideas. But it becomes less scary if you slow walk the intentional process. And I'm all about not being scared.
Yeah. Yep.
So just do it. Just do it.
Just do it. I love that. Just take a step and then the next step and then the next step. And then you turn around and you're already 10 steps
You got a
forward.
business. That's right. That's
I know.
right. Yeah.
So many times we get stuck on the whiteboard and the theory and the dreaming up, making sure your plan is as perfect as it can be.
Yes.
When we know in
Yes.
reality, you're going to
Yes.
get going and it's going to take you in a million other directions.
That's right. And you plan out the 3-year projections, and internally on our team, we used to say it's all lies. Like, we don't know what's really going to happen. I promise a global pandemic was not in our business plan that we submitted with our application to become a bank, right? And so yes, plan. But it's about responding to the environment and taking those steps. It's a walk. It's a walk.
What If is brought to you by the Cohn Center for Entrepreneurship at Belmont University's Massey College of Business. Named by Skill Survey as a top 5 career-ready business school, Belmont's Massey College of Business can launch you toward the career of your dreams. Visit belmont.edu/business for your next big step.
Man, well, thank you so much for being here today, Harry. Before I let you
Absolutely.
go, let's do some rapid fire questions.
Very cool.
Cool? Okay. What's your favorite music venue in Nashville?
Oh my gosh. Right now it has to be the Fisher Center because it is
There you go.
amazing.
It
It's
is,
gorgeous.
it is so beautiful. It's
So
so
beautiful.
gorgeous. Yes. Okay, I forgot to ask this earlier, so I'm going to make it a rapid fire question, but I just
Okay.
noticed your watch. You've got that
Yes.
cute little bulldog on your watch. You've got it on your shirt.
I
Tell us about the
do.
Studio Bank logo.
Yes, so it's a French bulldog, and if you know anything about Frenchies, they have the stature and stockiness of a bulldog without the aggression. They're friendly, social, quirky, and that's who we are as bankers. We're approachable, a little bit quirky, and loyal. So French bulldog.
Yeah, I love
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Favorite hidden gem in Nashville?
I don't know if it's that hidden anymore. Folks who move here don't easily find it, but Radnor Lake is one of my favorite places in Nashville. And the thought that that beautiful setting is in the middle of the city is
I
kind of
know.
unexpected. Yeah,
I know. It's so great.
yeah.
Do you have a new favorite TV show?
So I'm binge watching Schitt's Creek right now because I'd never seen it, and then I started watching it on Netflix, and it is hilarious.
It's very funny.
funny.
What's your next vacation spot?
I leave Saturday and I'm going to Naples, Florida, taking the whole family.
Nice.
So,
I've never
yeah.
been, but I've heard it's awesome.
So Chandra and I went last December, and so we're taking the family this time. Yeah.
That's so fun.
It's great. You should go.
Yeah.
You should go.
I love Florida. I love the
Yeah.
beach, everything.
Exactly. Yeah, what's not to like?
So if you were to start another business, what would it be?
It's not a bank. I'm never sure that just once is enough. Wow. It may not be a business, but it's actually really hard work. I think a foundation, a grant making foundation. I'd love to give money away for a living and figure out what organizations, programs, initiatives have impact and funding them. Yeah.
That's amazing. Final question.
Yep.
Do you keep any cash under the mattress?
Yeah. I don't. I never have cash on me. Ever, ever, ever. No.
There you go. Put it in the
That's
bank.
it. That's it. Thank you. This was fun.
Thank you, Harry. We just love your story and are so grateful for your continued support of Belmont and our entrepreneurship program, and what a gift Studio Bank has been to Nashville. So appreciate your work, and we look forward to seeing what the future holds for you guys.
We'll keep growing.
There you go. All right.
Take
Have a
care.
good one. Thanks for listening. What If is produced by Old Soul. For links and show notes, please visit belmontetp.com/whatif. Until next time, keep asking what if.